If it ain't you, baby, then I don't give a damn at all. And if it ain't for you, baby.
Hi, I'm Leslie Currier from Marin Shakespeare Company, founder of Shakespeare for Social Justice. While we're all on this lockdown and we can't come into the prisons to study Shakespeare with you, we're going to be sending in some instructional videos around the play Romeo and Juliet. You'll hear the play read by our teaching artists and actors, and then we'll talk about it a little. We hope you enjoy this. Romeo and Juliet. Here we go.
Girl, if it ain't you, baby. If it ain't you, baby. Oh.
Two households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona, where we lay our scene, from ancient grudge break to new mutiny, where civil blood makes civil hands unclean. From forth the fatal loins of these two foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life, whose misadventured piteous overthrows do with their death bury their parents' strife. The fearful passage of their death-marked love, and the continuance of their parents' rage, which but their children's end naught could remove, is now the 2-hour passage of our stage. The which, if you with patient ears attend, what here shall miss, our toil shall strive to mend.
Now, what I find fun about the prologue, and tying it back to kind of a modern day idea, is that most of us are used to seeing our favorite film when we were younger, or our favorite TV show, as a recently on Law and Order. That is what the prologue is doing. That is what Shakespeare is telling us. He's setting us up for success and understanding for the rest of the play.
The chorus is like the guide to our show. At the beginning of the prologue, they are pulling us in. They're telling us what exactly is going to happen. There's going to be a fight. There's going to be two lovers from either side of these beautiful families in Verona. And then, if you're really listening, you'll find out what happens.
The language of the prologue is very interesting. It's a Shakespearean sonnet. Notice that the first and third lines rhyme, and the second and fourth lines rhyme. That rhyme scheme is repeated for the next set of 4 lines and the set of 4 lines after that, with 2 lines at the very end that rhyme each other. This is the structure of a Shakespearean sonnet, and you'll find more in this play.
If Shakespeare used rhymes and sonnets to let us know how important this particular speech was, what do you think it means when other characters start to speak in this kind of a rhyme?
The prologue asks us to listen to hear the rest of the story. So what do you think? Do you want to hear the rest of Romeo and Juliet?
Gregory, oh my word, we'll not carry coals.
No, for then we should be colliers.
No, I mean, and we be in color, we'll draw.
Aye, while you live, draw your neck out of the collar.
I strike quickly being moved.
But thou art not moved quickly to strike.
Oh, dog of the house of Montague moves me.
To move is to stir, and to be valiant is to stand. Therefore, if thou art moved, thou runst away.
Oh, a dog of that house shall move me to stand. I will take the wall of any man or maid of Montague's.
That shows thee a weak slave, for the weakest goes to the wall.
True. And therefore women, being the weaker vessels, are ever thrust to the wall. Therefore I will push Montague's men from the wall and thrust his maids to the wall.
This quarrel is between our masters and us, their men.
'Tis all one. I will show myself a tyrant. When I have fought with the men, I will be cruel with the maids and cut off their heads.
The heads of the maids.
Aye, the heads of the maids, or their maiden heads. Take it in what sense thou wilt.
They must take it in sense that feel it.
Me they shall feel while I am able to stand, and 'tis known I am a pretty piece of flesh.
'Tis well thou art not fish. If thou hadst been poor John. Ah, draw thy tool. Here comes two of the house of the Montagues.
Oh, my naked weapon is out. Quarrel, I will back thee.
How? Turn thy back and run?
Fear me not.
No, Mary, I fear thee.
Let us take the law of our sides. Let them begin.
I will frown as I pass by and let them take it as they list.
Nay, as they dare, I will bite my thumb at them, which is a disgrace to them if they bear it.
Do you bite your thumb at us, sir?
I do bite my thumb, sir.
Do you bite your thumb at us, sir?
Is the law of our side if I say aye?
No.
No, sir, I do not bite my thumb at you, sir, but I bite my thumb, sir.
Do you quarrel, sir?
Quarrel, sir? No, sir.
If you do, sir, I am for you. I serve as good a man as you.
No better.
Well, sir.
Say better. Here comes one of my master's kinsmen.
Yes, better, sir.
You lie.
Draw, if you be men. Gregory, remember thy swashing blows.
Heart fools, put up your swords. You know not what you do.
What? Art thou drawn amongst these heartless hinds? Turn thee, Benvolio, look upon thy death.
I do but keep the peace. Put up thy sword, or manage it to part these men with me.
What? Drawn and talk of peace? I hate the word as I hate hell and all Montagues and thee. Have at thee, coward.
Down with the Capulets!
Club, still.
This. Come, give me my long sword. Oh!
A crutch! A crutch! Why call you for a sword?
My sword, I say. Old Montague has come and flourishes her blade in spite of me.
Thou villain Capulet! Hold me not! Let me go!
Thou shalt not stir a foot to seek a foe. Old, rebellious subjects, enemies to peace, profaners of this neighbor's stained steel. Will they not hear? What ho, you men, you beasts, that quench the fires of your pernicious rage with purple fountains issuing from your veins. On pain of torture, from those bloody hands, throw your mistempered weapons to the ground and hear the sentence of your moved prince. 3 civil brawls, bred of an airy word by thee, old Capulet, and Montague, have thrice disturbed the quiet of our streets, and made Verona's ancient citizens cast by their grave beseeming ornaments to wield old partisans with hands as old, cankered by peace, to part your cankered hate. If ever you disturb our streets again, your lives shall be the forfeit of the peace. For this time, all the rest depart away. You, Capulet, go along with me, and Montague, come you this afternoon to hear our further pleasure in this case. To old Freetown, our common judgment place. Once more, on pain of death, all men depart.
Who set this ancient quarrel new abroach? Speak, Cousin, were you by when it began?
Here were the servants of your adversary, and yours close fighting ere I did approach. I drew to part them. In the instant came the fiery Tybalt with his sword prepared, which, as he breathed defiance to my ears, he swung about his head and cut the winds, who nothing hurt withal hissed him in scorn. While we were interchanging thrusts and blows, came more and fought on part and part, till the prince came, who parted either part.
Oh, where is Romeo? Saw you him today? Right glad I am he was not at this fray.
Madam, an hour before the worship sun peered forth the golden window of the east, a troubled mind drave me to walk abroad, where underneath the grove of sycamore the westward rooteth from the city's side. So early walking did I see your son. Towards him I made, but he was ware of me, and stole into the covert of the wood. I, measuring his affections by mine own, that most are busied when they're most alone, pursued my humor, not pursuing his, and gladly shunned who gladly fled from me.
Many a morning hath he there been seen, with tears augmenting the fresh morning dew, adding to clouds, more clouds with his deep sighs. But also soon as the all-cheering sun should in the furthest east begin to draw the shady curtains from Aurora's bed, away from the light, steals home my heavy son, and private to his chamber, takes himself, shuts up his windows, blocks fair daylight out, and makes himself an artificial night. Black and portentous must this humor prove, unless good counsel may the cause remove.
My noble uncle, do you know the cause?
I neither know it, nor can learn of him.
Have you importuned him by any means?
Both by myself and with many other friends. But he, to his own affections counselor, as to himself, I will not say how true, but to himself, so secret and so close, so far from sounding and discovery, as is the bud bit with the envious worm, ere he can spread his sweet leaves to the air, or dedicate his beauty to the sun. Could we but learn from whence his sorrows grow, we would as willingly give cure as no.
See where he comes, so please you, step aside. I'll know his grievance, or be much denied.
I would thou wert so happy by thy state, to hear true shrift. Come, madam, let's away.
Good morrow, cousin.
Is the day so young?
But new struck 9.
Ay me, sad hours seem long. Was that my father that went hence so fast?
It was. What sadness lengthens Romeo's hours?
Not having that, which having makes them short.
In love?
Out.
Of love?
Out of her favor, where I am in love.
Alas, that love so gentle in his view should be so tyrannous and rough in proof.
Alas, that love, whose view is muffled still, should without eyes see pathways to his will. Where shall we dine? Oh me, what fray was here? Yet tell me not, for I have heard it all. Here's much to do with hate, but more with love. Why then, O brawling love, O loving hate, O anything of nothing first create. O heavy lightness, serious vanity, misshapen chaos of well-seeming forms, feather of lead, bright smoke, cold fire, sick health, still waking sleep that is not what it is. This love feel I that feel no love in this. Dost thou not laugh?
No, cuz, I rather weep.
Good heart, at what?
At thy good heart's oppression.
Why, such is love's transgression. Griefs of mine own lie heavy in my breast, which thou wilt propagate, to have it pressed with more of thine. This love that thou hast shown doth add more grief to too much of mine own. Love is a smoke, raised with the fume of sighs, being purged a fire sparkling in lovers' eyes, being vexed, a sea nourished with lovers' tears. What is it else? A madman, most discreet, a choking gall and a preserving meat. Farewell, my cuz.
Soft, I will go along. And if you leave me so, you do me wrong.
But I've lost myself. I am not here. This is not Romeo. He's some other where.
Tell me in sadness, who is it that you love?
What shall I groan and tell thee?
Groan, why no, but sadly tell me who.
Bid a sick man in sadness make his will. A word ill-urged to one that is so ill. In sadness, cousin, I do love a woman.
I aimed so near when I supposed you loved.
A right good mark, man, and she's fair, I love.
A right fair mark, fair cuz, is soonest hit.
Well, in that hit you miss. She'll not be hit with Cupid's arrow, she hath Dian's wit. And in strong proof of chastity well armed, from love's weak childish bow she lives unharmed. She will not stay the siege of loving terms, nor bide the encounter of her sailing eyes, nor ope her lap to seducing gold. Oh, she is rich in beauty, only poor that when she dies with beauty dies her store.
Then she hath sworn that she will still live chaste?
He hath, and in that sparing makes huge waste. For beauty starved with her severity cuts beauty off from all posterity. She is too fair, too wise, wisely too fair, to merit bliss by making me despair. She hath forsworn to love, and in that vow do I live dead that live to tell it now.
Be ruled by me, forget to think of her.
Oh, teach me how I should forget to think.
By giving liberty unto thine eyes, examine other beauties.
'Tis the way to call hers exquisite, and question more. These happy masks that kiss fair ladies' brows, being black, put us in mind they hide the fair. He that is struck and blind cannot forget the precious treasure of his eyesight lost. Show me a mistress that is passing fair. What doth her beauty serve but as a note, where I may read who passed that passing fair? Farewell, thou canst not teach me to forget.
I'll pay that doctrine, or else die in debt.
So a couple of important things happen in the course of this scene that's important to remember. We learn right away that there is a grudge so deep between these two families, the Montagues and the Capulets, that even the serving men of their houses are ready to come to blows to defend the honor of their houses. The bonds of loyalty are so deep, and this feud is so historic and ancient. We also learn that Romeo is a really lovesick teenager. He loves love, and having been rejected by the woman that he thinks is his one true love, he has fallen into a great melancholy. And it is his cousin Benvolio's job to tease him a little bit and try and bring him back out of it.
So there are a couple of characters that I'd love to introduce to you guys. So there are two characters named Tybalt and Benvolio. So Benvolio actually means goodwill, and Tybalt is our fiery character, and they are foils of each other. So foils means they are opposites. And I think you can see that in our scene.
Some of the most interesting language in this scene is when Romeo is talking about love. He says, love is a smoke raised with the fume of sighs, being purged a fire sparkling in lovers' eyes. A madness most discreet, a choking gall and a preserving sweet. He talks about love as if it makes you crazy. He talks about love as if it's a sickness. He talks about love as if it rips you apart.
In this first scene, Shakespeare gives us a gift, and it's not completely consistent through the whole play, but I want you to keep in mind when he uses the Capulets and the Montagues, he's giving you in the language, in the story, and in the characters a clue. The Capulets tend to have A sounds and T sounds. Juliet, Capulet, Tybalt. Really crucial when you're trying to figure out the story. On the flip side, we have the Montagues, the Romeos, the Montagues, the Benvolios, and the ever-loving Mercutio. So he's giving you a hint that makes it a little bit easier to follow the lines around.
What does loyalty mean to you? What are you loyal to now?
But Montague is bound as well as I in penalty alike. And 'tis not hard, I think, for men so old as we to keep the peace.
Of honorable reckoning are you both, and pity, 'tis you live at odds so long. But now, my lord, what say you to my suit?
By saying all what I've said before. My child is yet a stranger in the world. She hath not seen the change of 14 years. Let 2 more summers wither in their pride, ere we may think her ripe to be a bride.
Younger than she are happy mothers made.
And too soon marred are those so early made. The earth hath swallowed all my hopes but she. She is the hopeful lady of my earth. But woo her, gentle Paris. Get her heart. My will to her consent is but a part. And she agree, within her scope of choice lies my consent in fair courting voice. This night I hold an old accustomed feast, whereto I have invited many a guest such as I love. And you among the store, one more most welcome, makes my number more. At my poor house look to behold this night, earth-treading stars that make dark heaven light. Such comfort as do lusty young men feel when apparelled April on the heel of limping winter treads. Even such delight among fresh female buds shall you this night inherit at my house. Hear all see, and like her most, whose merit most shall be, which on more view of mine being one, may stand in number, though in reckoning none. Come, go with me. Go, sirrah, trudge about through fair Verona. Find those persons out whose names are written there, and to them say, my house, and welcome on their pleasure stay.
Find them out whose names are written here? It is written that the shoemaker should meddle with his yard and the tailor with his last, the fisher with his pencil and the painter with his net. But I am sent to find those persons whose names are here writ, and can never find what names the writing person here hath writ. I must to the learned. Oh, in good time.
Tut, man, one fire burns out, another's burning. One pain is lessened by another's anguish. Turn giddy, and be hope by backward turning. One desperate grief cures with another's languish. Take thou some new infection to thy eye, and the rank poison of the old will die.
Your plantain leaf is excellent for that.
For what, I pray thee?
For your broken shin.
Why, Romeo, art thou mad?
Not mad, but bound up more than a madman is. Shut up in prison, kept without my food, whipped and tormented, and... Godden, good fellow.
Oh, God, I pray, sir, can you read?
Aye, mine own fortune and my misery.
Perhaps you have learned it without book, but I pray, can you read anything you see?
Aye, if I know the letters and the language.
You say honestly, rest you merry.
Say, fellow, I can read. Senor Martino and his wife and daughters, County Anselm and his beauteous sisters, the lady widow of Vitravio, Senor Placentio and his lovely nieces, Mercutio and his brother Valentine, my uncle Capulet, his wife and daughters, my fair niece Rosaline, Livia, Senor Valentio and his cousin Tybalt, Lucio and the lively Helena, a fair assembly. Whither should they come?
Up!
Whither?
To supper, to our house.
Whose house?
My master's.
Indeed, I should have asked you that before.
Now, I'll tell you without asking. My master is the great rich Capulet. And if you be not to the house of Montagues, I pray, come and crush a cup of wine. Rest you merry.
At this same ancient feast of Capulet sups the fair Rosaline, whom thou so lovest, with all the admired beauties of Verona, Go thither, and with unattainted eye compare her face with some that I shall show, and I will make thee think thy swan a crow.
When the devout religion of mine eye maintains such falsehood, then turn tears to fires, and these who often drowned could never die, transparent heretics be burnt for liars. One fairer than my love? The all-seeing sun ne'er saw her match since first the world begun.
Tut, you saw her fair, none else being by, herself poised with herself in either eye. But in that crystal scales let there be weighed your lady's love against some other maid, that I will show you shining at this feast, and we shall scant show well that now shows best.
I'll go along, no such sight to be shown, but to rejoice in splendor of mine own.
We have Paris, who is the equivalent of a prince, coming to Capulet, who's telling him exactly what to do. First, A, come to my party, and B, check out my daughter. So it sets up very early on in the play, on purpose, who has the power and who is driving this play to begin with. It shifts eventually, but it's super important to realize that Lord Capulet has a lot of stuff going on for a really good reason.
Romeo finds out about this party purely by coincidence. He happens to run into the serving man, Peter, who happens to have the message from Capulet to the other nobles of the town. And it just so happens that Peter can't read, so he enlists Romeo's help in reading this invitation. And that's how Romeo finds out about this party and how Romeo gets to meet Juliet. Coincidence is a crazy thing, isn't it?
One interesting thing you'll find in the language in this scene are some rhyming couplets. When Shakespeare uses two lines that rhyme, he often uses them at the end of a scene because there's a finality to it. Lord Capulet, in talking to Paris, says, "Let 2 more summers wither in their pride, ere we may think her ripe to be a bride," which means let 2 more summers, 2 more years pass before we think maybe she's old enough to get married. There's a finality to that. And Lord Capulet's trying to end the scene, but Paris doesn't give up and answers with "younger than she, our happy mother's maid." Capulet goes on to talk for a long time after that before he gets to the next rhyming couplet, and then he really does end his part of the scene.
What I love about this scene is that we get to dive a little bit more into the relationship between Benvolio and Romeo. Benvolio really has Romeo's best interests at heart when he encourages him to go to this party and see what else the world has to offer. Look at other women and see that maybe who he thinks is his one true love really isn't. He says, "Go and compare her face," meaning Rosalind's face, "with some that I shall show, and I will make thee think thy swan a crow." Romeo protests, but we, the audience, know that in just a few short scenes, he's going to see Juliet, and all thought of Rosalind will be gone from his mind.
What would you do if you were Lord Capulet and Paris was asking about your daughter?
Have you ever been in a situation where A, you really didn't know if you wanted to go in the first place, and B, the person inviting you wasn't your ideal party guest mate?
Nurse, where's my daughter? Call her forth to me.
Nay, now, by my maidenhead at 12-year-old, I bade her come. What, lamb? What, ladybird? God forbid, where's this girl? What, Juliet?
How now? Who calls?
Your mother.
Oh, I am here, madam. What is your will?
This is the matter. Nurse, give leave a while. We must talk in secret. Nurse, come back again. I have remembered thee. Thou'st hear our counsel. Thou know'st my daughter's of a pretty age.
Faith, I can tell her age unto an hour.
She's not 14.
I'll lay 14 of my teeth, and yet to my teeth be it spoken, I have but 4. She is not 14. How long is it now to Lammas tide?
A fortnight in odd days.
Even or odd of all the days of the year, come Lammas Eve at night shall she be 14. Susan and she, God rest all Christian souls, were of an age, well, Susan is with God, and she was too good for me. But as I said, on Lammas Eve at night shall she be 14, that she shall. Mary, I remember it well. 'Tis since the earthquake now 11 years, and she was weaned. I never shall forget it of all the days of the year upon that day. For I had then laid wormwood to my dog, sitting in the sun under the dove house wall. My lord and you were then at Mantua. Nay, I do bear a brain. But as I said, when it did taste the wormwood on the nipple of the dog and felt it bitter, pretty fool, to see it touching and fall out with the dog. Shake, quoth the dove house, 'twas no need, I trow, to bid my trudge. Since that time it is 11 years, for then she could stand alone, nay, by the rood, she could have run and waddled all about, for even the day before she broke her brow, and then my husband, God be with his soul, I was a merry man, took up the child. Yea, quoth he, dost thou fall upon thy face? That will fall backward when thou hast more wit. Wilt thou not, Jewel? And by my holy dame, the pretty wretch left crying and said, Aye, to see how now a jest shall come about, I warrant that I should live 1,000 years. I never shall forget it. Wilt thou not, Jewel? Quoth he. And pretty fool stinted and said, Aye.
Enough of this. I pray thee, hold thy peace.
Yes, madam. Yes, I cannot choose but laugh, when to think it should leave crying and say, Aye. And yet I warrant it had upon its brow a bump as big as a young cockerel's stone, a pearlet's knock, and it cried bitterly. Yea, quoth my husband, fallest upon thy face, thou wilt fall backward when thou comest to age, wilt thou not, Jewel? It stinted and said, Aye.
And stint thou too, I pray thee, nurse, say aye.
Peace I have done, God mark thee to his grace, thou wast the prettiest babe that I e'er nursed, and I might live to see thee married once. I have my wish.
Mary, this Mary is the very theme I came to talk of. Tell me, daughter Juliet, how stands your disposition to be married?
It is an honor that I dream not of.
An honor, were not I thine only nurse, I would say thou hast sucked wisdom from my teat.
Well, think of marriage now. Younger than you here in Verona, ladies of esteem are made already mothers. By my count, I was your mother much upon these years that you are now a maid. Thus then, in brief, the valiant Paris seeks you for his love.
A man, young lady, such a man, as all the world wide, he's a man of wax.
Verona's summer hath not such a flower.
Nay, he's a flower, in faith a very flower.
What say you? Can you love the gentleman? This night you shall behold him at our feast. Read o'er the volume of young Paris' face, and find delight writ there with beauty's pen. Examine every married lineament, and see how one another lends content, and what obscured in this fair volume lies, find written in the margent of his eyes. This precious book of love, this unbound lover, to beautify him only lacks a cover. The fish lives in the sea, and 'tis much pride for fair without the fair within to hide. That book in many's eyes doth share the glory, that in gold clasp locks in the golden story. So shall you share all that he doth possess, by having him, making yourself no less.
No less? Nay, bigger. Women grow by then.
Speak briefly. Can you like of Paris love?
I'll look to like, if looking lacking move. But no more deep will I indart my eye, than your consent gives strength to make it fly.
Madam, the guests are come, supper's served up. You called, my young lady asked for, the nurse cursed in the pantry, and everything in extremity. I must hence to wait. I beseech you, follow straight.
We follow thee. Juliet, the county stays.
Go, girl, seek happy nights to happy days.
In this scene, Lady Capulet, Juliet's mother, tells her that there's a party coming up. She tries to send Juliet's nurse out of the room. The nurse is like Juliet's nanny, and she's been with Juliet since she was a kid. The nurse doesn't want to leave. She comes back, then she doesn't want to shut up, but eventually Lady Capulet tells Juliet, check out this young guy Paris at the party tonight. He might make a really good husband for you. Juliet says, I'll take a look.
Now the language in this, you will notice a little bit of the nurse going on and on and on. But the beautiful part is they let her. She's not in this house for a small moment of time. She was more than likely Mrs. Capulet's nurse as well. So we have to realize that even though Juliet and Lady Capulet and even Lord Capulet will roll their eyes at the nurse, she is a part of their family, and her stories are a welcomed part of their entire world.
Here's a fun fact for you all. Did you know Lammas Eve is August 1st? I didn't.
What I love about Lady Capulet is as she's talking about Paris later on in the scene, she starts to rhyme. If you look at her speech, she starts to say, and see how one another, examine every married lineament, and see how one another lends content. And what obscured in this fair volume lies, find written in the margin of his eyes. As we know, when characters start to rhyme, that usually means something pretty important. This lets us know that for Lady Capulet, Juliet marrying Paris is a very important thing. We might also take it to mean that the idea of her daughter making such a fortunate match means a lot to her, and she loves her daughter very dearly. And for Juliet to marry so well and to be coupled so fortunately would make her very happy indeed.
Now the question we have for you, is there someone in your life, maybe a tia or an abuela, that you know that when they come for Thanksgiving, it's gonna be a session and a half, but you love them anyway?
What, shall this speech be spoke for our excuse, or shall we on without apology?
The date is out of such prolixity. We'll have no Cupid hoodwinked with a scarf, bearing a Tartar's painted bow of lath, scaring the ladies like a crow-keeper. Nor, no without book prologue, faintly spoke after the prompter for our entrance. But let them measure us by what they will. We'll measure them a measure and be gone.
Give me a torch. I am not for this ambling. Being but heavy, I will bear the light.
Nay, gentle Romeo, we must have you dance.
Not I, believe me. You have dancing shoes with nimble soles. I have a soul of lead. So stakes me to the ground, I cannot move.
You are a lover. Borrow Cupid's wings and soar with them above a common bound.
I am too sore and pierced with his shaft to soar with his light feathers. And so bound, I cannot bound a pitch above dull woe. Under love's heavy burden do I sink.
And to sink in it should you burden love. Too great oppression for a tender thing.
Is love a tender thing? It is too rough, too rude, too boisterous, and it pricks like thorn.
If love be rough with you, be rough with love. Prick love for pricking, and you beat love down. Give me a case to put my visage in. A visor for a visor. What care I, what curious eye doth quote deformities? Here are the beetle brows shall blush for me.
Come, knock and enter, and no sooner in, but every man betake him to his legs.
A torch for me. Let wantons light of heart tickle the senseless rushes with their heels, for I am proverbed with a grandsire phrase. I'll be a candle holder and look on. The game was ne'er so fair, and I am done.
Tut, done's the mouse, the constable's own word. If thou art done, we'll draw thee from the mire of this Sir Reverend's love, which wherein thou stickst up to the ears. Come, we burn daylight, whoa!
Nay, that's not so.
I mean, sir, in delay, we waste our lights in vain, like lamps by day. Take our good meaning, for our judgment sits 5 times in that ere once in our 5 wits.
And we mean well in going to this mask, but 'tis no wit to go.
Why, may one ask?
I dreamed a dream tonight.
And so did I.
Well, what was yours?
The dreamers often lie.
Dead asleep, where they do dream things true.
Oh, then I see Queen Mab hath been with you. And she is the fairy's midwife, and she comes in shape no bigger than an agate stone on the forefinger of an alderman, drawn with a team of little atomies athwart men's noses as they lie asleep. Her wagon spokes made of long spider's legs, the cover of the wings of grasshoppers, the traces of the smallest spider's web, the colors of the moonshine's watery beams, a whip of cricket's bone, a lash of film, her wagoner a small gray-coated gnat, not so big as a round little worm pricked from the lazy finger of a maid. Her chariot is an empty hazelnut made by the joiner squirrel or old grub. Time out of mind, the fairies' coachmakers. And in this state she gallops night by night through lovers' brains, and then they dream of love. Or courtiers' knees that dream on curtsies straight, or lawyers' fingers that straight dream on fees, or ladies' lips who straight on kisses dream, which oft the angry Mab with blisters plagues, because their breaths with sweetmeats tainted are. Sometime she gallops o'er a courtier's nose, and then dreams he of smelling out a suit. Sometime comes she with a tide pick's tail, tickling a parson's nose as he lies asleep, and dreams he of another benefice. Sometime she driveth o'er a soldier's neck, then dreams he of cutting foreign throats, of breaches, ambuscados, Spanish blades, of hells 5 fathom deep, and then anon drums in his ear, at which he starts and wakes, and being thus frighted, swears a prayer or two and sleeps again. This is that very Mab that plaits the manes of horses in the night, and bakes the elf-locks and foul sluttish hairs, which once untangled much misfortune bodes. This is the hag when maids lie on their backs, that presses them and learns them first to bear, making them women of good carriage. This is she.
Peace, peace, Mercutio, peace! Thou talk'st of nothing.
True, I talk of dreams, which are the children of an idle brain, begot of nothing but vain fantasy, which is as thin of substance as the air and more inconstant than the wind, who woos even now the frozen bosom of the north, and being angered puffs away from thence, turning his face to the dew-dropping south.
This wind you talk of blows us from ourselves. Supper is done, and we shall come too late.
I fear too early. For my mind misgives some consequence, yet hanging in the stars, shall bitterly begin his fearful date with this night's revels, and expire the term of a despised life closed in my breast by some vile forfeit of untimely death. But he that hath the steerage of my course direct my sail. On, lusty gentlemen!
Strike, drum!
So in this street scene, I think it is unbelievable how much these boys, young men, are willing to risk. Not only do we know already that there is an ancient grudge because the prologue told us, yes, but we also know that the two households are feuding, and all these boys are armed with are their buddies and masks. So the risk in this scene is huge, and I don't want us to take that for granted because it really sets up the next scene very well.
Mercutio is aptly named. You may have heard of the term mercurial. Well, Mercutio is a very mercurial character. His passions rise and fall. He is prone to mood swings and wild, passionate outbursts like the Queen Mab speech, where he imagines a tiny fairy coming along and tickling people's noses and giving them wild, lascivious, lewd dreams. He is passion. He is hot and cold, unpredictably so. And this turns out to be very important later on.
At the very beginning, we are given a speech that normally we don't get to see a lot in Romeo and Juliet. So, Benvolio talks about the date is out of such prolixity. Prolixity means long-winded, and then he goes on to be long-winded. He talks about how it's out of fashion to give such long explanations, and then he goes on to give a long explanation.
In this scene, Romeo has a premonition about his fate. Have you ever had a premonition that something important was about to happen to you?
We want to know if there is a Mercutio in your life, or are you the Mercutio that has a Romeo in your life?
Where's pot pan that he helps not to take away? He shift a trencher, he scrape a trencher.
When good manners shall lie all in one or two men's hands, they are in wash too. 'Tis a foul thing.
Away with the joint stools, remove the court cupboard, look to the plate. Good thou, save me a piece of marchpane, and as thou lovest me, let the porter let in Susan Grindstone and Nell, Antony, and pot pan.
Aye, boy, ready.
You are looked for and called for, asked for and sought for in the great chamber.
We cannot be here and there too. Clearly, boys, be brisk a while, and the longer liver take while.
Welcome, gentlemen. Ladies that have their toes unplagued with corns will have a bout with you. Ha ha, my mistresses, which of you all will now deny to dance? She that makes dainty, she, I'll swear, hath corns. Am I come near you now? Welcome, gentlemen. I've seen the day that I have worn a visor and could tell a whispering tale in a fair lady's ear. Such as would please. 'Tis gone, 'tis gone, 'tis gone. You are welcome, gentlemen. Come, musicians, play. A hall, give room. And footed girls, play. More light, you knaves, and turn the tables up, and quench the fire. The room has grown too hot. Ah, sirrah, this unlooked-for sport comes well. Nay, sit, good cousin Capulet. You and I are past our dancing days. How long is it now since yourself and I wore a mask?
By lady, 30 years.
What, man? 'Tis not so much, 'tis not so much. Come, Pentecost, as quickly as it will, some 25 years when we were masked.
'Tis more, 'tis more. His son is elderly, sir. His son is 30.
Will you tell me that? His son was but a ward 2 years ago.
What lady is that which doth enrich the hand of yonder knight?
I know not, sir.
She doth teach the torches to burn bright. It seems she hangs upon the cheek of night like a rich jewel in Ethiop's ear. Beauty too rich for use, for earth too dear. So shows a snowy dove trooping with crows, as yonder lady o'er her fellows shows. The measure done, I'll watch her place of stand, and touching hers make blessed my rude hand. Did my heart love till now? Forswear its sight, for I ne'er saw true beauty till this night.
This, by the voice, must be a Montague. Fetch me my rapier, boy. What dares the slave come hither covered with an antic face to fleer in scorn at our solemnity? Now, by the stock of honor of my kin, to strike him dead, I hold it not to sin.
Why? How now, kinsman? Wherefore storm you so?
Uncle, this is a Montague, our foe, a villain that is hither come in spite, to scorn at our solemnity this night.
Young Romeo, is it?
'Tis he, that villain Romeo.
Content thee, gentle cuz. Let him alone. He bears him like a portly gentleman. And to say truth, Verona brags of him to be a virtuous and well-governed youth. I would not for the wealth of all the town here in my house do him disparagement. Therefore be patient. Take no note of him. It is my will, which if thou respect, show a fair presence and put off these frowns and ill-beseeming semblance for a feast.
It fits. When such a villain is a guest, I'll not endure him.
He shall be endured. What, good man, boy? I say he shall. Go to. Am I the master here or you? Go to. You'll not endure him. God shall mend my soul. You'll make a mutiny among my guests. You will set a cock-a-hoop. You'll be the man.
Why, uncle, 'tis a shame.
Go to. Go to. You are a saucy boy, 'tis so indeed. This trick may chance to scathe you. I know what. You must contrary me. Marry, 'tis time. Well said, my hearts. You are princocks. Go, be quiet, or more light for shame. I'll make you quiet. What? Cheer, my hearts.
Patience perforce with willful choler meeting makes my flesh tremble in their different greeting. I will withdraw, but this intrusion shall, now seeming sweet, convert to bitter gall.
If I profane with my unworthiest hand this holy shrine, the gentle fine is this, my lips, two blushing pilgrims ready stand to smooth that rough touch with a tender kiss.
Good pilgrim, you do wrong your hands too much, which mannerly devotion shows in this. For saints have hands that pilgrims' hands do touch, and palm to palm is holy palmer's kiss.
Have not saints' lips, and holy palmers too.
Aye, pilgrim, lips that they must use in prayer.
Oh, then, dear saint, let lips do what hands do. They pray. Grant thou, lest faith turn to despair.
Saints do not move, though grant for prayer's sake.
Then move not, while my prayer's effect I take. Thus my lips by yours my sin is purged.
Then have my lips the sin that they have took?
Sin from thy lips. Oh, trespass sweetly urge, give me my sin again.
You kiss by the book.
Madam, your mother craves a word with you.
What is her mother?
Mary Bachelor, her mother is a lady of the house, and a good lady, and a wise and virtuous. I nursed her daughter that you talked withal. I tell you, he that can lay hold of her shall have the chinks.
Is she a Capulet? Oh, dear Count, my life is my foe's debt.
Away, be gone, the sport is at its best.
Aye, so I fear, the more is my unrest.
Nay, gentlemen, prepare not to be gone. We have a trifling fooling banquet towards. It is even so. Why then, I thank you all. I thank you, honest gentlemen. Good night. More torches here. Come on then, let's to bed. Ah, sirrah, by my fay, it waxes late. I'll to my rest.
Come hither, nurse. What is yon gentleman?
The son and heir of old Tiberio.
Ah, what's he that now is going out of door?
Mary, that I think is Petruchio.
What's he that follows here that would not dance?
I know not.
Go ask his name if he be wed. Oh, my grave is like to be my wedding bed.
His name is Romeo, and the Montague, the only son of your great enemy.
My only love sprung from my only hate. Too early seen unknown, and known too late. Prodigious birth of love it is to me that I must love a loathed enemy.
What's this? What's this?
A rhyme I learned even now of one I dance withal.
Juliet!
Anon, anon! Come, let's away, the strangers are all gone.
What we are inviting you to take a look at is how quickly this scene happens. No sooner do the gentlemen arrive at the party Then Capulet introduces everybody and away they go to the dance floor. We have this idea in our head that this is a long Shakespearean something, when really it happens in less than 300 lines or just a couple pages of dialogue. Romeo and Juliet fall in love, and they're in the middle of the dance floor in her father's house. So again, the risk is high.
When Romeo meets Juliet in this scene, he says, "If I profane with my unworthiest hand this holy shrine, the gentle fine is this: my lips to blushing pilgrims ready stand to smooth that rough touch with a tender kiss." That's quite a pickup line. He's saying that if he's profaning her hand by touching it, he'll kiss all that profanity away. It's also the beginning of a sonnet. Check it out. See if you can find 4 lines with that rhyme scheme where the first and third rhyme and the second and fourth rhyme. You'll see Juliet's response is the next part of the sonnet, and together these 2 star-crossed lovers complete a sonnet, and that's how they meet.
Romeo's ruse is discovered pretty quickly. Tybalt hears his voice and says, "I recognize that. That's a Montague." Interestingly, though, Lord Capulet allows Romeo to stay, which infuriates Tybalt. As he stalks away, he delivers a little bit of foreshadowing when he lets Capulet know that what he thinks is actually an act of kindness will turn to bitter gall.
What do you think about Capulet stopping Tybalt from fighting Romeo?
Which is more important, loyalty or love?
Has there ever been a time in your life where you've realized that maybe it's a little bit romantic, a little bit fanciful, and it happened so fast that you didn't even know it was happening to you at the time?
Have you ever fallen in love at first sight? Maybe with a person, maybe with a car, maybe with a motorcycle? What makes you fall in love at first sight? What has been your greatest passion?